navigating life and entrepreneurship together as a couple. This is part 2 of our episode. We started this back in May of this year. This is part 2, where we will continue our conversation of navigating life and entrepreneurship together. This is the 30. Well, we are back, folks. We are back. We are in full effect. Steph, I want to welcome you back into the 30. Glad to have you here. How have you been?
I have been well. I have been well. Thank you for having me back on the 30. It's always exciting to be here. I'm glad to be here with you and the viewers.
All right. This is part 2. We did part 1. We said that we promised that we're going to come back with a part 2, maybe a part 3. Part 1, based on the feedback, based on the viewers and the feedback, I thought it went pretty good. What was your thoughts and opinions of part 1?
I think it went well. Definitely. I agree. I think it went well. It's the 30. How can it not go well?
Well, thank you. This is episode 211 of the 30. Couplepreneurs, navigating life and entrepreneurial world together. My name is Patrick Jackman, and my wife's name is Stephanie Jackman. And as we said before in part 1, we are 2 entrepreneurs, but not together. We don't have a business together. We have 2 separate businesses, but a lot of the times those 2 businesses kind of intersect, right? Steph, why don't you tell the viewers again in terms of what you do, and then let's set the platform there, and then do a quick review of part 1 and move into part 2.
Sure. So by trade, I am a mental health therapist and a mental health consultant. I have been in those various roles for 21 years now, 21 years. And I have been the owner of Stephanie Jackman LCSW PLLC in Rochester, New York for 14 years. So it has been a journey. It's been a wonderful journey. It's been a blessing. So yeah, I'm excited in terms of what God has next for the business. We provide individual and group and family and couples therapy. And as a mental health consultant, I push into organizations such as faith-based organizations, educational institutions, governments, colleges, and provide implementation for mental health programs and or workshops or seminars around mental health and mental wellness.
Awesome. So you do quite a bit, right? You're busy all the time. You're also the host of your own YouTube channel, which is under you, Stephanie Jackman LCSW, but the program is called Your Best Unleashed. So we talked about that last week, and you do that every other Tuesday. I know you have one coming up pretty soon here, and that's going to be part 3 of building resilience in children and adolescents. So that's part 3. I know you did part 1 and 2, but part 3 will be coming up, I think Tuesday of next week. So make sure that you viewers and listeners go out to her YouTube channel at Stephanie Jackman LCSW and check her episodes out. They are awesome. Today, those of you that don't know who I am the other half of the Jackmans, Team Jackman, we call ourselves. We're going to wear our shirts, which we have Team Jackman, Jackman 1, Jackman 2. And on the front, of course, we have faith is our superpower, which it is, right? So not only are we doing life together, and not only are we in terms of entrepreneurs, which is our main job, which is our income, right? Entrepreneurs, but we're also actively involved in ministry. For me, I'm an executive pastor at our church, and Steph serves in whatever capacity she's called upon. So we do a lot. So we wanted to talk about and bring you some ideas, what we've gone through, not just in life, but also from an entrepreneurial standpoint. We want to talk about that. So last time we were here, we talked about our journey. We went through the beginning of our entrepreneurial journey, and we talked about the origins of our business. When did we make the decision? How did we make the decision? And I promised that we're going to come back because we ran out of time, and we were going to talk about some dynamics of working together. Again, we are not in business together, but we share a lot based on our 2 individual businesses, but we share a lot. The 2 businesses that we have some synergy because not only am I involved in coaching, training in terms of leaders and helping teams, but I'm also a executive coach. And if you understand therapy, right, Steph? Therapy and coaching, there are some similarities where we both have to listen. And I've learned a lot from Steph in terms of how to be more effective in listening to my clients. Steph, you want to talk about that, and then we can move in to more of the dynamics working together.
Well, I think you're being a little modest because the joke in the house is that you're my little TIT, and, and that is that acronym stands for therapist in training, right? So there is definitely some overlap in what we do and around listening to our clients and supporting our clients and giving them, as a mental health consultant, I am compensated strictly based upon making recommendations to organizations. Whether they take them or not, that's part of my duty and responsibility in terms of just making recommendations. So there's some overlap in regards to that as well. And then being able to listen to our clients and what needs are there with our clients. So there's definitely some overlap. And I learn a lot from you as well that I like to joke and say that I actually get it complimentary. And that's part of my benefits as being Mrs. Jackman. So
Yeah, so our businesses complement each other well because I learn a lot from Steph in terms of her uh, therapy business and the ability to ask questions. I find out from her, well, what are some good questions to ask in our coaching business, right? So I find out from her some good questions. So we're talking about roles and responsibilities. So we talked last time that we're going to dive into some of the roles and responsibilities and how do we share, how do we communicate and collaborate with each other. Some of you out there may be in business together and you want to find out, well, what are some of the roles and responsibilities, or how do we communicate and collaborate with each other. Ours now is that we have two separate businesses, but we do a lot together. So we're going to talk about those roles and responsibilities. How do we effectively communicate and collaborate? And then the last thing that we'll do for this particular episode, if we have time, we'll talk about how do we maintain a healthy work-life balance. So let's take it from the roles and responsibilities. So as Steph said, I learned a lot from her because she said I'm a TIT, and that is what, a therapist in training.
That is
Is that it?
correct.
Right.
That's
And then
correct.
I probably can call her a what's that? A CI what's that? A coach in training, right? So a CIT, coach in training. So I'm a TIT, she's a CIT. So we learn a lot from each other. And that's part of the role. We help each other, right? If there's a need, if she needs something to help her business grow, I am there. We don't run competition with each other. We don't compete with each other, although we are two very competitive individuals. Jump in here, Steph. She loves to win, right? I'm not as competitive as she is.
First of all, who doesn't love to win, right? If you're going to be in the game, you might as well want to win. I would beg to differ and say that since I became a Jackman, it was like this in spirit that was imparted in me to want to win. And I know, on that level, it's interesting because one of our vendors that we actually share, which is something that we do, our tech vendor, our computer vendor, our website vendor. It was interesting because I was having a conversation with him, and I said, I would like to be, one of a successful private practice in Rochester, New York. And he said something to me that I thought was so profound. He said to me, he said, Stephanie, well, why just Rochester? Why limit yourself? Why not Monroe County? Why not New York State? And so that really spoke volumes to me in terms of not setting limits on what God can do, not setting limits on my capabilities and our capabilities, both individually, our individual businesses, as well as collectively, our businesses. And so that really kind of sparked a fire in me, and put a fire in my belly, if you will, in terms of, God has entrusted us with these businesses. So why not make him proud, and why not make him smile in terms of being the best that we can possibly be in that regard?
Yeah, for sure. We serve a mighty God, a huge God, right? So why do we think small? So we got to start thinking big. Expansion. Our prayer is always in terms of expansion, expanding our business, expanding our territory, expanding our sphere of influence. So we always talk about that. But some of the other roles that we play, if I need, let's say that we go into account the Jackman Group and we need assistance, and we talk about this a lot in terms of whether it's counseling or therapy or mental health. I know that my next call, right, will be to Steph. Right? If I see an opportunity where someone needs assistance from a therapy standpoint, from a clinician standpoint, I have someone that I can call or I can refer them to. That's part of my role as well, is not only helping us, but more importantly, helping the client, right? Helping the person. So I'm not going to leave the person there if I know that someone else like Steph in her group can also help them. So those are some of the roles that we play. The other role that I play, I think I mentioned this the last time, is that I'm an unpaid advisor, which I think that I should be paid. And if you believe that I should be paid, drop that in the chat. I'm an unpaid coach to Stephanie Jackman, PLLC, and an unpaid advisor. I still am lobbying to be on the payroll. Not sure if that's going to happen, but help me to help her, right?
I believe that you are compensated in many other ways, right? So not only do we not only do we do um, work together, but we also do life together. So everyday life. So I'm ensuring that you have a nice home, a clean home, you have some type of tofu or vegetables to eat on a regular basis.
Now you have to go there, huh?
But we share in that, right? We share.
All right. The folks that's watching us is probably saying, "Oh my gosh, just get on with it." So I think that we probably need to really dive in and give some real information, some deep information, because someone may be looking for some hands-on, some tips to help them grow, to help their business grow, to help whether it's a couple doing business together or the couple having separate businesses. So let's talk about communication and collaboration. What would you say are some strategies, Steph, that help us to be more effective as couplepreneurs, um, and doing not only business but also doing life together, life partners and couplepreneurs?
Yeah, so as I stated before, we often will share vendors.
Mhm.
Um, and that piece I think is really key. So if one vendor works for one company, then we can certainly, and we have done, and we do refer the other company to that same vendor. We also share a strategist, right? A professional strategist, a professional coach, if you will. You more so than I, but she's certainly been accessible to me as well, in regards to some business strategies. In regards to communication, I think in our my first episode here, I would say that the timing is really key in terms of communicating with you and bouncing different things off of you, because you're constantly working. You're always working, doing something, whether it's working for the Jackman Group, preparing for the 30 ministry. You're constantly and consistently working. So one thing that I would really say is that it's important for couplepreneurs to be able to have consistent time and be intentional and deliberate about their communication. So oftentimes, as we're ending the day, as we're wrapping up our day, whatever time that may be, we're communicating with each other in terms of next day. What's on your agenda for the next day? And that encompasses everything. That encompasses life, our personal lives, that encompasses business. So I may say, I'm going to be in the office from 9 to 6. I have sessions all day. It may be you're telling me you're going to be at the church for such and such amount of time. You may be working from home. You may be working remotely. You may be out in the community. You may have a training to do. You may have offsite coaching session. So that communication piece, I believe that we work very hard as couplepreneurs to make sure that we are basically accountable to each other. That's accountability.
Mhm. That's good. That's good. And one of the tools that we use, as Steph said, is that we use the calendar a lot, right? If you're looking for a practical tip, is utilize a calendar. We know one of our neighbors, they utilize a calendar for their lives as parents and grandparents, and and they have color coded time frames, and we're not to that part yet, right? But we utilize the calendar all the time to ensure and communicate with each other so that we know what each other is doing, both personally and professionally as well as spiritually. So we as Steph said, we talk about whether it's the day before, the night before, or a couple of days before. We talk about what do we have planned, what's on our calendar, what's going on. So we're in constant communication. Do we get it right all the time? No. Uh, was it always like that? No. But we've learned to be able to effectively communicate by the use of a calendar so that we're not stepping over each other. We share some tools, like we may share Zoom together, right? So, in essence, if we don't talk about the Zoom in our meetings, we may be tripping over each other, setting up meetings which the calendar is blocked off. So we talk about that. So Steph may say, "Hey, Pat, I'm going to be having some meetings on Zoom next week at such and such time." Okay, so I know that is blocked off. Now I can go into another form of meeting, whether it is StreamYard or Google Meets, but we want to make sure that we are communicating with each other consistently. And we have to be intentional in doing that if you're going to do not only life together, but also from a couplepreneur standpoint.
And Pat, I would say, that is key and critical due to one, we're sharing resources, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we're sharing resources with each other, and it's not a duplication of services. So it doesn't mean that both companies have to have the pro Zoom account. It just means one company can have it, and then we can share that. And we're sharing resources, and then we're not having a duplication of services and extra expenses in that regard. The other piece around the communication piece that's really key is as our businesses have expanded during the day or evenings when we're working or doing therapy sessions or trainings, we're not accessible to each other in terms of verbally being able to communicate. There's sometimes where Pat is doing trainings and he's on a training platform for hours at a time. There's times where I have therapy sessions and there are 3 and 4 sessions back to back for 3 and 4 hours consecutively, and I'm in session, which then means I'm not right there by my phone. He's not accessible to me via text message. I can drop him a text and then he'll be able to get to it when his training class takes a break or when they do lunch. But again, it's all about being able to be accountable to each other and having those strong lines of communication. Because when you're talking about couplepreneurs, there's this element of couplepreneurs and doing life together where you're talking about you have to be able to trust each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
Yeah,
key piece.
yeah, yeah. Trust is very important. I remember. I think we mentioned this in part one, um, where we learned a lot working during COVID, right? Because you were downstairs, I'm upstairs, and we are sharing resources. So we learned a lot as to how to communicate from COVID right? And how to collaborate from COVID. So we took a lot of lessons from that.
Yeah. So in during COVID, I was doing a lot from home, and I was a little fearful about that initially because I'm like, you know, being at home and working at home, I like to be in the office. I don't necessarily like to do, at that particular time, I didn't like to do telehealth. And one thing that I would say is it's important to be open, flexible, adaptable when changes occur. That's part of entrepreneurship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of collaboration. as you're doing business and life together, as you're being couplepreneurs together and collaborating together, is you have to be flexible, you have to be adaptable, because you never know what's going to transpire and happen around life's challenges that we don't have any control over.
That's good. All right, let's look at the last point, and we'll run out of time here. As I said in part one, we may have to do a part two and part three. So if you're interested in a part three, make sure, folks, just drop us a line. You can send an email to me, info@jackmangroup.llc.com. That's info@jackmangroup.llc.com. And let us know what you want us to cover as far as part three, as we continue with our Couplepreneurs episode or discussions. Steph, let's talk quickly about maintaining a healthy work-life balance. And we have so much to cover. In another episode, we'll talk about overcoming challenges, but let's talk about work-life balance with the time that we have. Discuss some of the things, and you've heard me said, it's hard to have a work-life balance. As you grow as a business, as you grow as an entrepreneur, it's hard to maintain that work-life balance. Let's talk about that.
Yes, that certainly can be difficult as entrepreneurs. I tell people that are pursuing becoming entrepreneurs or business owners that you'll work harder for yourself than you've worked for anybody else. And that's, I've learned that over these years. But one thing that I would definitely want to share with the viewers is I have been trained, and I am a stickler for boundaries. And I adhere to those professional boundaries in terms of trying to create work-life balance. So you alluded to the fact in the first episode of Couplepreneurs that we don't work on Sundays. Right. We don't do anything around work on Sundays. That piece is really key. And then also for myself, I don't see clients unless it is a true emergency on a Saturday. So I'm a stickler for boundaries, for those professional and personal boundaries. I like for us to be able to have our weekends, even if we're not doing anything but at home. Patrick had to learn once we got married that it's okay to have a vacation.
What's that?
So again, those are boundaries. Now, of course, he may take his computer on vacation. He may do work on vacation. And vacation doesn't mean, an extended period of time. Vacation for us could be 2 days. It could be a Saturday and a Sunday. It could be a Friday evening, a Saturday, and then we're coming back Sunday. So that's a vacation for us because we're moving away from the routine of the hustle and bustle of work. So I would say if I were to leave the viewers with anything, it would definitely be implement those boundaries for yourself.
Yeah, and I've had to learn that. As Steph said, I was under the illusion, right? In order to succeed, yes, you do have to work hard, right? Work comes before success. I tell folks all the time, the only place that S comes before W is in a dictionary. So you're not going to be successful without work. But I've always been taught is that you have to work. It goes back to what our Rihanna sound is, right? Work. So, but you also have to take a break. So those of you that may have a strong work ethic, it's okay, but you also have to take a break. If you are married, if you have a family, your family comes before that, because if your family leaves and all you have work, what's the sense of that? If you work yourself into a grave, your family is left without you. So you have to take a break. I've learned that. I've learned to take vacations. Not that I didn't like taking vacations, because in the when I was in corporate America, I was blessed to be able to travel a lot. So in my travels for work, I also thought, okay, I can work and vacation on my downtime. So that's why it was, well, I don't need vacation because I've had that in my job where I work and I also took some time off for me. But I want to thank Steph for really instilling in me that I need time away, that we need time away, the importance of work life balance, because it's important. It's important for your health, it's important for your family, it's important for you. If you have employees, it's important for them to see you taking time, right? That's self care.
Yeah. And lastly, I would say, as your businesses grow, as your business grow, it's important to make sure that you scale your business, right? So
Mm,
that you can implement boundaries and you don't have to feel like you have to do everything. That was kind of a trap that I had gotten caught into
mhm.
until you communicated that to me as the business, as the group practice began to expand. So that piece is really key as well. Scaling the business, right? Scaling the business means understanding that you don't have to be all things to all people and do everything within the business. Well, if I'm not working, then that means, there's no money being made. Sure, absolutely. But at the same time, if you scale the business and you have someone else take on some of those responsibilities, then you can then certainly take initiatives to be able to drive more income or get more clients or that type of thing. So I just wanted to leave the viewers with that as well.
Now that's a great thought. That's awesome because we talked about that a lot from a leadership standpoint, but from an entrepreneurial standpoint, that's important, right? If you're the only one working, that tells me the size of your business because what you're actually doing is trading hours for dollars, and there's only so many hours in a day. So what Steph was talking about is scaling our business where others are partnering with you, where when you are not there, others can take that opportunity because you've trained them and developed them and keep the business going. So we'll talk more about that. But Steph, that's a great point. Well, we are up on it. Steph, I want to thank you so much. But before we go, one of the things that you and I had talked about previously, and we've talked about this over time, years, and then we talked to it with our coach and our advisor, is building a community where we can share some of the information that we've learned with our community, right? And we're going to be sharing and talking about this more in the coming weeks. But we're excited that we're going to be launching a new community where we're going to be giving tips and inspirational messages and also sharing our library of videos and content. And then we're also going to be having a one-on-one from time to time. So that's something that we are in the final stages of putting together. And guess what? The name of it is going to be called what? Connect. It's about connecting with each other. So stay tuned. We're going to be releasing this information in a couple of weeks where you will have an opportunity to join a community which is called Connect with Impact Leaders. And it's going to be I'm excited about it because we've talked about this extensively. What's your thoughts on it, Steph, as we end?
I am excited about it as well. I can't wait. I know it's going to be excellent. I know it's going to be rewarding and impactful. So you all have to stay tuned for what's coming up next with the Jackman Group.
As exactly. So connect with impact leaders, right? That's going to be the community, and we are going to release it shortly. So as Steph said, stay tuned. We have a lot more coming. Steph, any last words before we go and wrap up?
No, thanks again for having me on the 30. It's always a pleasure. Thanks to all the viewers out there for watching. And I look forward to the next time I have the opportunity to join you all.
All right. So we are you ready for part 3 sometime soon?
Let's do it. Let's
Because
do
we
it.
still have a lot to cover, right? We still have a lot to talk to our viewers and listeners about. Before we leave, what's coming up on your Best Unleashed?
Yes. So make sure that you stay tuned on this Tuesday at 11 Eastern for your Best Unleashed. We will be doing part 3 of building blocks of resiliency within our children and adolescents. So for those of you that are parents, grandparents, caregivers, educators, adoptive, foster parents, bonus parents, make sure you join us for that episode of Your Best Unleashed.
And where is it going to be? How can someone view it?
Absolutely. It's on my YouTube channel, and that is at Stephanie Jackman LCSW.
Great. At Stephanie Jackman LCSW. Make sure you get ready to watch that, whether live or in replay. Building blocks of resilience in
Children and adolescents.
Children and adolescents. So, all right, folks. Thank you so much, family. I wanted to thank Steph again for jumping in on the 30. Folks, make sure that you share, you like, and share this broadcast. If you're watching it from YouTube, subscribe to our channel. It is at the 30 with Patrick. At the 30 with Patrick. If you're watching us from LinkedIn, make sure you like and repost. But whatever you do, make sure that you're here next week for the 30. So as we end, may God bless you and your family. Be safe. We will see you next week. Be blessed, everyone.